everybody, and welcome to Murder We Spoke, the podcast where we talk about the horrible, dubious people that live in the outskirts of society.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt. And today, who are we talking about, Rachel?
The Zodiac Killer.
Yee. Definitely not somebody that you want to go to Lover's Lane alone with.
Well, I'm not sure you go to Lover's Lane
not with him.
Whether
you hang out at Lover's Lane and then stuff happens. And
whether you meet him at Lover's Lane or go to, or you'd probably meet him at Lover's Lane.
He would just be there. He'd be like, hey, what's going on here? Bang, bang.
Sure. You could say that. So yeah, most people know the Zodiac Killer. It's pretty popular out there. They made movies.
Yeah, they had that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal in it.
Yeah, and believe it or not, one of those guys is actually deemed a suspect in this.
Really? In the movie?
One of the guys based in the movie is deemed a suspect.
Yeah.
But they actually shows real picture in here too.
If I remember correctly, the person that they deemed a suspect is actually in another show called Channel Zero.
I think so.
No.
If I remember correctly. Thinking about it and seeing his image, I think it may have been, but I could be wrong. If that's incorrect, everybody out there, you can give me a thumbs down. Don't give the video a thumbs down.
Yeah. You dislike Matthew.
You could dislike me, it's fine. Don't dislike Rachel or the podcast itself. But
I didn't do anything.
You give me a big boo-hoo. Whatever, it's fine.
So the Zodiac Killer was basically, he was centralized in Northern California.
Yep.
He popped around to plenty of places, suburban, urban. He didn't really have like a specific place. He
Drifter.
he didn't have an MO. Like they didn't know he only kills in this spot and he only kills at this time. He didn't have any of that. He was like a wild card, and that's why they had such a hard time pinning him down. He pretty much named himself too.
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody knows. In his letters to the police are ciphers. Most likely they were ciphers. He would say the Zodiac. He named himself. The media didn't name him, which is not rare, but not not common
for
all.
Somebody. It's not like somebody that had like Gacy, where he was the murderous clown or whatever, even though that's like, all right, that was pretty general. Like, all right, that one's pretty basic. In comparison to the Zodiac, one, he seems like he stewed on a little bit.
He liked the media. He
loved the media. He loved it big
would
time.
Send his letters to the media.
Yeah.
Sorry, correction from before. Not the police. He would send it to the newspapers and be like,
time.
Show
Put
me,
that
show
on the
me,
front page.
put me. It feels like it's a lot of like, look at me,
Yeah,
look what I.
A lot of his stuff was for attention. It seemed to be like either you put this out there to the media and you grab the attention and make me famous, or I'm going to murder X amount of people, or I'm going to murder for this amount of days or something like that.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
And this went on from pretty much the 1960s to the 70s, relatively. There's possibly 20 to 28 people he killed, but he claims that there's around 37 people.
Yep.
But then again, the hype is what I don't really believe that he killed 37 people. I don't think he had time to kill 37 people. I think he might have had time to kill 20 people. I don't think he had time to kill 30 people. That takes years. Like, if you think about it, there's only 12 months in a year.
To the 70s, I feel like it's possible. Because look at Gacy. Gacy had X amount of people and everything.
But wouldn't it have an MO? Like, wouldn't it, not an MO like location, but like...
That if it seems like if he doubled up on kills and everything, because he seemed to really be fond of killing people that were couples and everything like that.
Yeah.
Even if he started in the 60s and he killed even like... a couple.
Yeah. I feel like he started out because it was easier.
Yeah.
I think they were easier targets.
You get like 2 for 1s. And they're not suspecting it.
At all.
They're not armed or anything. They're probably in the middle of like making out or whatever.
Yeah.
No.
I did, we're going to move on to the topic that I did more research into, as you guys know, from the last podcast we had. I like focusing a lot on I like focusing on the victims a lot, so you can see their faces, and it's important to see their faces and to know that these are children. Most of these people are children or young adults, which I consider in my eyes babies.
Yeah.
They're still they were babies, and they were real people, and this really happened. So instead of showing, all pictures of him and his sketches that may or may not be him, it's a good idea to look at these people and know who they were and put a face to a name and, out of respect. So before
it shows that it could be anybody too. You could, I don't know, who's to say? One of those kind of things.
It's hard. I doing research on this case really, even just this one single case, I was like, I need to take a few deep breaths and go in the other room, because this was, I didn't include any details because there was a lot of details that were just not good. And definitely not healthy mindset for anybody who isn't in the right mindset to experience that. So we're going to go into our first victims. So our first victims happened on December 20th, 1968. And it was David Arthur, excuse me if I'm saying this wrong, David Arthur Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. I've heard of Betty Lou Jensen a lot. So they were shot and killed on Lake Harmony Road, and that's within the limits of Benzina, I think that's pronounced. And I also heard that this was, I first read into them and then stopped fully reading into the scenes. They were on their first date.
Yeah, first date. They hung out at a friend's beforehand or whatever. They were going to go to a dance.
Or something like that. Yeah.
And they went out to Lover's Lane just to hang out.
It was a block away from her house.
Jeez,
it was a block away from her house. Yeah.
And there was a car that approached up to their vehicle, probably pretending to be somebody of authority and being like, hey, what are you kids doing here and everything like that. Or just approach their vehicle. Because even if somebody approaches your vehicle, you're going to be like, hey, what are you doing?
You're going to think it's a cop. That's automatic. They're going to tap on your window and you're going to think it's a cop. You're not going to think somebody's going to pull out a gun and kill you. So they both ended up dying. So none of them survived from this.
Yeah, do you know what happened with them specifically from if I remember correctly, they both got out of the vehicle, but technically, she ended up scurrying away. Yeah. She ran away because shortly after he got out of the vehicle, he got shot in the head.
Yeah, so I know somebody got shot when they got out of the car. Yeah. Immediately got shot.
So he was,
and then eventually he shot her.
DOA. Right? Yeah. So she immediately freaked out, of course, like any natural human being would. Yeah. Ran away or attempted to and got 5 shots in the back just from trying to scurry. Yeah.
And there was something written on the car, but I couldn't find a picture.
That was a later couple.
Okay.
Later couple.
Okay. So the next
where
couple,
he left their
go on, Matt.
I don't remember if it was this couple or it was a couple after that. But I feel like it was an older couple. I want to say it was the third couple because I feel like these two he didn't do that to.
We're getting there, Matthew. Yeah. Hold on.
So we'll save it for the third couple.
Pump your brakes. Yeah. We're not there yet. We're on the express train, Matt.
Oh my
God. Almost there. I'm not going to show you those two.
Unfortunately.
So our next two, it happened on June 4th. So look at the time period between both. So December to July, July 4th. So 4th of July from December, almost Christmas, to 4th of July in 1969. And this happened in the parking lot of Blue Spring Parks in Vallejo. And also their names were Michael Magoo.
Michael, Renault, Magoo.
Yeah, and Darlene Farron. Yeah, and one was the guy was 19 and the girl was 22. Yep. So there's an age difference there. And so the guy survived the attack. Yep. The girl was pronounced dead on the way to the hospital. Yeah, this is like, I didn't know about this.
Actually, no, you're correct. Yet that was the couple. They were the ones that were also shot, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, so, they were shot in the car.
And so he was the one that was making a sound. So what happened is the Zodiac Killer heard Maju moaning from the gunshot wound. Oh, so he came back and shot them both an additional 2 times to confirm that they were dead. Even after that, he still survived, and that's where he wrote down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but the writing was actually the third one.
That was the third. So this is one that was interesting because this is, if I'm not correct,
because he bound them up.
This is a different. Is this the right one? Is this the one? I thought this one was in a field, and it was during the day. The next one. And it was very weird because he usually killed the first 2 at night. And this one, he was in the state park. If you go online, you can look up the state park that I'll name in a minute. And you can see the exact spot where they were stabbed. It was isolated. It was like right by a lake. They were relaxing together. And this one was not a stabbing. This was not a shooting. Yeah. This one was a stabbing. Which is
weird from his regular MO, because normally he shot them.
Weird. All of that is weird. So
maybe he forgot his gun at home and he's like, I got this.
Yeah, these people were a little bit older. I mean, relatively. Yeah. They're
compared
almost as
to the other couples, yeah.
Brian Hartnell and Cecile Shepard. Brian was 20. Cecile Shepard was 22. They were stabbed on September 27th, 1969 in Lake Berryessa in Napa County. The guy survived 8 stab wounds to his back.
Yeah.
And she died as a result of her injuries on September 29th. So they got stabbed the 27th. She died the 29th. So she didn't even die right away from it. And these were those 2 couples. So they're a little bit older. I also heard, I wasn't able to do research on that he was coming back from a trip or something like that. But this was a very isolated area, and this was very weird. Out of all of them, these are the first main ones that you've heard about. I wasn't able to list all of the other ones because some of them are confirmed, some of them are they're still trying to confirm if it was him. And that would be like lists and lists. So these are the first main ones.
Technically, he bound them and
stabbed them.
He had the Brian bind Cecilia, and the Zodiac Killer noticed that she was able to get out.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those things where, who knows? I don't know. Either way, I feel like that it was definitely no good. Either way, he was planning on killing them, regardless of whether he noticed that she was bound a little looser or not.
It's just so bad. And for some reason, if you look at all of these so far, I think I have one more after this. If you look at all of these, why does it feel like they do a lot more damage to the girls than the guys? No girls survived. Out of all this, only guys survived.
The guys,
I mean, relatively, some of them were overkill. Like, he came back and shot the guy who was already dead twice more. But he also shot the girl twice more. And it makes you think, like, what's going on in that area? But I can't always say that everybody has mommy issues. Okay? I can't really say, I have mommy issues, I'm going to go out and kill 2 people on Lover's Lane. It doesn't, So, all right, we'll go on to the next guy. This guy I feel bad for. I mean, I feel bad for all of them, but this guy was just doing his job and making a living so he could go back to his wife. He did have a wife. I'm not going to say her name because she's still alive.
Oh, wow.
She wasn't in the car with him. It was just him. This guy's name was Paul Lee Stein, and he was 29. He was shot on October 11th, 1969 in Presino Heights, which is, not in the middle of a city. He was shot in a neighborhood in San Francisco. I felt really bad for him because he had a wife and he was saving up money and he was just shot, and they think he was shot for no reason. They don't think it was a planned killing because this killing made no sense. It was very random.
It was very messy, considering
he was
how sloppy it was. It was out in the open.
And you can research and see actual photos of him in the car. You can see the blood, the guts. It's not good. I saw it and I was like, why am I here? I shouldn't be on this page. Google's gonna flag me for looking up this stuff. It was bad. He took a piece of his shirt, which will come about later on in the story. And he claimed he killed 37, like I said, but he is linked to several cold cases in Southern California or even outside of the state of California. So some of them, you can do the research and look up the cold cases that have been confirmed that it was him. I guess that was just him in the beginning, and in the beginning of his execution style killing. So any thoughts about that before we move on, Matthew?
No, it's crazy because later on, I mean, there's that main suspect where it's like, okay, he was incarcerated because of something,
There's certain people where I was like, why is this guy on your list? I mean, I know we're not basing all of the information on the picture and how accurate that picture is to the real guy. And then I'm going to backtrack because I just remembered something. Paul Stein, the reason why they didn't catch the Zodiac that day was because they put a PBA out on a black man.
Yeah.
And they said a black man shot somebody. Look for a black man that looks like has a gun. Yeah, so the Zodiac walked right by the police and went bye and walked right by them because they assumed incorrectly that it was a black man.
Then he gloated that he spoke with the police officers for like 30 minutes or whatever.
That he spoke with a police officer and they didn't assume it was him because of misinformation that was put out. That's a big, especially if you have a serial killer out there, to be like, nah, this was just a random killing by some guy on the street, some black guy on the street is not correct and not right. But,
it's discriminatory.
It's horrible. The past is horrible. Let me say this. The past is very horrible. People's mindset back then was not correct.
But identified a white person
and they just didn't care
to kill it.
It's just I don't think they put the pieces together quite yet until the letters and the ciphers came in, and they I'll tell a little bit more about that.
So, I got a quick question actually. I just want to know, because we saw a bunch of people that were his victims.
Yes.
What actually connects those to make them be like, oh yeah, this is killed by the same person?
His letters.
His letters. I have it later on in the whole thing I researched. He takes credit. So a lot of the ciphers that came in later said, well, not later, in between, which I'll name the dates, said, hey, I killed those people back in December. Hey, I killed those people on the 4th of July. Hey, I killed that guy, and not to spoil it, I have a piece of his shirt that was cut out and I sent it to the newspaper. Yeah. So that's what connects him. But those ciphers took a very long time. So let me scroll.
One took 51 years to decipher.
Yeah, one. So
and it was only deciphered last year?
It was last year. It was 2020. They deciphered it. They had time on their hands. So he had a lot of ciphers and symbols and
big time. That's why I think he's very intelligent, but at the same time, he left two people that he thought were dead alive. So that's really sloppy at the same time. So I want to think
it's too much confidence, and I feel like a lot of serial killers and infamous serial killers have this. Sociopaths. They think they're smarter than the police. They think they're smarter than everybody else. They like the attention of it, but they're not going to say who they are. And I think that's why he was in contact with the media. I think that's why he wrote the ciphers, to be like, they need to continue to pay attention to me.
Very attention grabbing.
I edited down some of the ciphers because some of the ciphers are very descriptive, and I edited down to the safest, unusual parts of it because there is a lot. So on August 1st, so in between August 1st, 1969, the San Francisco Examiner and the San Francisco Chronicle and the Vallejo Times Harold, each received identical handwritten letters in an envelope without a return address. It began as, "Dear editors, I am the killer of the 2 teens last Christmas at Lake Herman." The letters detailed details from the Zodiac's murders that only the killer would have known. So they didn't release that information to the public. The killer went on to threaten further attack if the letter wasn't printed on the front page of the papers.
It seemed like he would threaten to kill, like, school bus of kids a lot. For whatever reason, like, that seemed to be
his thing. Is like, I mentioned a little bit later. So that was one of his last letters. Was the I'm gonna shoot a school bus,
or like, oh, blow up a building.
Yeah,
or
he was very like, and then at the end, and then he
full Joker.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he was a maniac.
And this is all in between everything, and each letter closed with a symbol consistent with a circle and a cross through it, and that's where that. And that is a scope of a gun. And so that's known as the Zodiac Killer symbol. The letters were also accompanied by one part of a 3-part cipher that he claimed to contain his identity.
And each one was 408
Yeah, it was insane. Like, I don't know how anybody ciphered.
That's the other thing. It's like somebody that's like having to come up with something where somebody's got to crack it. Yeah. You got to be able to like understand the thing yourself. Like, I would never be able to do that. I'd be like,
So I watched a documentary, which we'll mention a little bit later, that talked about one of the suspects. Grandpa used to do ciphers with him as like a game. So his grandpa was in the army and would be like the code breakers. Yep. So he would play a game with him, from what the Sun says. So we don't know if this is 100% credible. That he would play a game with him, decipher this cipher that I gave you, decipher this cipher that I gave you. And for me, none of the other suspects have that. Like, where do you know these ciphers from? Yeah. Who taught you? Ciphers aren't easy to learn. No. So it's not like something you could go, oh, let me Google. Well, nowadays you can just Google it.
That's why whenever they give a kid a cipher, even if it's on like a cereal box, they'll have like a way to break it down. They'll give you like A is like a B or like C equals like a J or something.
I'm going to mention the documentary a little bit later, and if you're very interested and you like this, I would suggest going to that specific streaming streaming service and watching it. It's interesting. It shows like all these things, all these hints of like who, this one guy thinks his dad did it. Here's all the things. And then there's also all the other people saying, here's all the stuff that the guy said that wasn't true, that did. So it's like both sides, how he thinks. And you're like, wow, this is the guy. I don't understand why they didn't pick him up, blah, blah, blah. And this is why they didn't pick him up, was because a lot of things were inaccurate in the book or exaggerated in the book. It was a book turned into a show. So several days later, a high school teacher and his wife were able to solve the cipher, which is weird that it only took several days. It said, I like killing people because it's so much fun. It read, it is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of them all. And 3 days after the fourth known Zodiac killing in 1969, the murder of the taxi driver Paul Stein, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter claiming that crime. The letter, written in the same erratic print as the Zodiac's previous letters. It gave the details of the shrine murders and was accompanied by a bloody scrap of his shirt. So that's what connects him to that. At the end of the letter, the killer amused that he would next shoot out the tires of a bus and pick off the kiddies as they bounced out of the school bus. Yeah, it was. And then in 1974, the letters stopped. And although the investigation did not, they never heard from the Zodiac Killer ever again.
We had a bunch of different notes later on that people would either mimic or possibly it could have been the Zodiac, but he would not title himself as a Zodiac. No. He'd be like, oh, I'm this person now. I'm like the Red Ghoul or something like that.
I don't know. There's theories on why he stopped. There's theories that one of the suspects like they could have died and that's why they stopped. Or there's even another theory that the real Zodiac Killer died after the third killing. And that's why that fourth killing was so random and not correct. Or the one where they were killed in the field. Why that was so weird and out of his norm. Because the actual guy died and then a mimic person who wanted to mimic that killer continued on. And there's a theory about that. There's a theory that it's a whole bunch of other people. And people. Like that documentary I was talking about said that the guy's dad lived 2 blocks away from where the guy was killed in the taxi. He was, oh God, it was a really good documentary. It's put in like episodes. So it's not like a big like movie. It's like episode by episode. It's definitely, as soon as I watched it, I was like, I can't stop watching.
Wow.
It was really, really good. It makes me want to, definitely like do a little more research. I never did till now. But doing research on this guy really, like I said before, really messed me up.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
It's like the fact that they have like the crime scene photos online, just like,
yeah, it's rough. You never expect to see stuff like that. Like even with our first podcast, like, geez, I forget what it was.
The artist rendition of the...
Actually, you know what? It wasn't the first podcast. It was even before we were on the first podcast. We were talking about something else, like another killer, and it was like, when I was looking that up, it saw some really gruesome pictures.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God.
It's like, why does Google allow this? Does the person who put out this picture get paid? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah,
I don't think it's respectful to the people who died. I wouldn't want my people to remember me for my dead body. Just
big time. Now I remember what it was, but that's a separate podcast on its own. His ciphers is way more ciphers than that. If you wanna look them up, they're very disturbing. And he talks about how every person he killed will be his slave in the afterlife. Yeah, big time.
It's very like this guy wasn't right in the head to begin with.
And
like,
he apparently wasn't afraid of being caught or whatever.
I know, he didn't care. He's like, catch me. I'm not. He goes, I'm not afraid to die. You can fry me, and I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to die.
Take me to the gas chamber.
So yeah, he was like, he didn't care. Which a lot of people say that they don't care, and then when they get to the gas chamber, they're crying like babies. So it's just very upsetting that they didn't catch this guy. This guy. If it was nowadays, he would have been already caught. There's no way.
I feel like it. But I mean...
There's no way. They
took so long to even figure out the ciphers. And surprisingly, like, no one being figured out recently. But there's still that one cipher, like, my name is... Nobody could even figure out that cipher yet.
I think the one of the ciphers said, do you think I would tell you who I was? Like, he didn't... I think that was a new one they decoded. Saying that you think I would tell you like who I am. I'm not gonna do that. But I'm gonna bring back because it's the only documentary I've watched that was like really like in depth. It talked about how that guy's name was in the cipher. The dad's name was in the cipher, and there's like pieces. But then they're like, you could really decode that to like any name in the cipher if you actually looked at it, and it was a lot. It was back and forth, but it was definitely like. The guy's dad wasn't okay. He came out of a mental hospital at some point. He was in the locations and around the locations where these things happen. What I always say is there's no such thing as coincidence. There's no such thing that this guy coincidentally happened to live in specific places or had been at specific places or went missing at this place or was around. I don't think there's a coincidence in that. Especially if this guy's like the first, like, the first suspect that actually, like, there's a lot of like dots piecing together, and I think he died around the time of when it stopped. So something crazy. Like that, or he went away to a mental institute around when the stuff stopped. It was just bad, and like it was bad. He was like, the guy in the documentary was like, abusing kids, like that's not the main good.
Suspect. Yeah.
And it's coincidental that most of the people he picked off were kids.
Yeah, they were
relatively
young.
Kids.
Yeah.
They were young, and maybe it was easy. Like I said, maybe it was just easy pickings, or maybe and there's no such thing as coincidence for me. There are a couple of suspects. There are suspects that look exactly like the sketch. The sketch came from the last, like you said, Matt, the last, well, you didn't say it on here. You said it to me earlier. The last killing, which was Paul Steen, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, the taxi driver.
The taxi driver. That's where the sketch, if you look up the Zodiac Killer, came from. Was people seeing that guy leaving the scene. Whether that's the Zodiac, well, because he sent the letters, but you can't be sure if it's actually him. They could have, there's just a lot of ifs. There's nothing we can do about it now, because the guy's either dead or in a mental hospital. I mean, you don't hear from him now. He would have continued, would he have not? And since his crimes he wanted so public, like he wanted everybody to know and hear him, why would he just stop?
Nah, he loved attention.
It seemed like this was like I want the attention. I mean, like, how he killed the people was horrible, but it wasn't like he tortured them.
No.
It was a quick, well, not quick, but I mean...
Well, the shootings were... fairly
were
quick, or you want to think that they're like something that, okay, especially if somebody shot in the head, then sure, then that's kind of like, all right, that's pretty much it, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
The stabbings, I feel, are a lot more...
personal.
Personal, gruesome, more painful.
I don't know whether it was because it was during the day. Sometimes I think the reason why he went up and stabbed those people...
It's quieter.
It's because it's quieter, and it was during daylight he stabbed them. So why would I want to bring a gun to an open park in the middle of the day? I think it's, not saying that he's smart. He's not smart. I don't give any credit to him. But to put it on the safe side, I would bring a knife if I was going to be...
unless it's like a hunting area or something like that.
But it really wasn't. He was dressed in... That's where you get that iconic...
If I remember correctly, when he was dressed up during that murder, he was dressed up like an executioner.
Cross. Yeah, he was dressed up like an executioner with the circle and the cross. He had like almost like a bag over his head with the circles. Yeah, and they said he was like 5'11" or something like that. They actually have like his height about around how high he was, because you can watch reenactments of it, not the stabbing, but like what actually happened. And you can see like he's just walking like a person. And they were like getting weirded out by it, but they're like, it's just a person in a park. I mean, it's pretty weird. And then coming directly towards them, like he was very like driven, like he knew, or like, how would you just pick somebody at random like that?
I don't know.
Without knowing that somebody's going to be there.
It's hard to even get into like somebody's mindset like that, because I don't know. I'm socially anxious in general. And this is kind of like, in regards to serial killers and stuff like that, that was kind of like our family's way of making us aware of stranger dangers is getting us to know like these people. Yeah. Like if you go away from your parents, then these people are the boogeyman, essentially. Yeah. These are the people that Strangers will come and get you.
They paranoid us from like little kids in school. Stranger danger. I don't even know if they do that now. And I think they need it more now than they do before. Big time,
because people are going away to like foreign countries and stuff like that where, there is like active terrorism going on and stuff like that. And they don't consider that as a threat.
Even online. I think that even online,
like somebody on AIM or somebody on Craigslist or somebody even just on a regular dating site could be a social.
Yeah, like a chat room that you speak to. A lot of people go missing through there. It's an easier way for predators to
pick people off,
groom people. It's easier now. I think we made it by forming technology to make it easier for people like not like this to do what they do. I think he'd be caught. I think nowadays I think it's almost impossible.
Record. Yeah, if somebody were to meet online or even did like some sort of coding or whatever, like I feel like that would be like a modern Zodiac. Is if somebody had something hidden in either like some sort of web code or whatever.
Yeah. I don't even.
That would be easy picking.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but we got to go to break.
Okay,
we're definitely way over.
Okay. I wanted you to stop me.
Yeah. We're like 20 over.
Oh, wow. Shit. I was like waiting because I didn't want to go to the suspects until we were done because I needed time because that's the end and the update and then I'm done and that's my whole document.
We'll be right back. We're going to be going to one of our sponsors. Peace out. We'll see you in a minute.
Hey guys, have you ever heard a thing called Audible?
What's that?
It's a digital reading books, where you read books. And right now I'm reading The Most Dangerous Animal of Them All. And it's all about the Zodiac Killer.
Holy crap. Does Gary Busey read that story?
He might.
Oh, that'd be crazy. I would definitely want to hear Gary Busey read this.
And where can you find us now?
You can go to audibletrial.com/spaceambo.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could have Gary Busey's delicious mouth speaking words into your ear.
We're going to need to start doing the fucking ad breaks on everybody's podcast. Audible is the #1 site for audio entertainment that includes podcasts,
I'm not gonna remember
newspapers, and everything else. Don't worry about it. They also have audio books. As Rachel said, she's currently reading The Most Dangerous Animal of All. Once again, that's audibletrial.com/SpaceZamboni. Check it out. You get a free trial. You get to get a free piece of audio entertainment. And just enjoy the service. So much love. And we go right back to these two.
Hello. Welcome back to Murder We Spoke, where we're going to continue talking about the Zodiac Killer.
As you may know, we were in the middle of talking about his ciphers. We just got done with that. So now we're going to roll our drums onto our suspects. There's 3 main suspects in this case that the police call 3 main suspects. As I'm pretty sure 3. It's 3 from what I remember. So the first suspect is Arthur Lee Allen, which you've heard of. This was the guy that they're like, this is it. Yeah, this is our guy.
Creme de la creme.
But look at his picture. I'm sorry, I laughed when I looked at that picture. I went,
that looks like the guy from King of the Hill.
Yes. It says True Crime Arthur and former San Francisco Chronicle cartoonist, which is the movie that you were talking about earlier. Robert Gary Smith wrote 2 separate works on the killer. In 1986, 2002, Zodiac Unmasked. Ultimately identifying the man named Arthur Lee Allen as the most likely suspect. Allen died in 1992, however, has never conclusively connected to any of the murders.
Yeah,
there was no connection between this guy here. And look at this sketch, man. That's a joke. And that's him around the time of the murder. And he doesn't even wear glasses.
Well, who knows? Maybe a couple of years could have put some weight on him or whatever. I mean, technically, this was back... When was this picture taken?
This is the same time. All these pictures I have are around the same time. You're gonna change your mind.
Maybe he's trying to Superman the kill, where it's like Clark Kent wears the glasses.
Maybe.
He just puts on
but look, you could see he doesn't have any of the...
No, he looks nothing like the hair. Doesn't have glasses. Doesn't have any of the gaunt look.
His nose is different. His ears, maybe his ears are the same, but that's really it. The next guy is the guy I actually watched the documentary about that I was talking about, and also there was a book about him too. Earl Van Best Jr. I want you to take a look at this guy and this guy. I just take a look, and eventually I'll show you one that has the lines, the newest one. But okay, Earl Van Best Jr. In 2014, HarperCollins published The Most Dangerous Animal of Them All by Gary Stewart, in which he claims that his father, Earl Van Best Jr., who bears a strong resemblance to the man in the police sketch, was a Zodiac Killer. There's a lot more information about this. He lived near the places where the murders took place. He was in and out of psych hospitals. He was not a good person for his whole life and died around the time, from what I remember, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, died around the time that the letter stopped or was put in a mental institute. He's the guy that I was like, wow, he looks exactly like the sketch, down to the actual glasses that is actually there.
He died in 1984.
84. Okay, so maybe a little bit later, but yeah. And in an insane asylum, right? If I'm not staying corrected.
He's put into mental institute.
Oh, what year?
Had a baby put up for adoption.
Yeah, that's the guy who wrote the book.
Yeah, I'm not seeing when he was in but I could check if you want me to.
Yeah, if you could. I just want to confirm that it's around that time. Yeah. So I really like him for the murder in police.
Yeah, he definitely is compelling.
I mean, look at his face. I would think somebody did like a cartoon sketch of this guy. And this is around the time. He had a lot of things like going for him to be this guy. There are also a lot of things that people are saying, no way that this guy could be this guy. But everybody does that. So I'm not going to pin anybody yet because I'm not a detective.
This is saying he died in Mexico City.
Yes,
wow.
He died. He's buried in Mexico City.
Yeah, it said he died in Mexico City as well. I'm not sure if that's where he was put into the institute.
No, he was put into an institute, and I'm pretty sure he got out and then went to Mexico.
Okay, so there you go.
And he's buried in the documentary. You see the guy finally reuniting with he reunites with his mom in the documentary, but also his dad, who he did all the research on. So let's move on to our next person. This guy's Louis Merrill. I don't know where they got. Okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Another man came.
He looks like Kramer.
Yeah, he does actually. Louis Meyer. Another man came forward in 2014 to reveal that his friend's named Louis Meyer had confessed to being the killer before his death in 2002. Certain events in Meyer's history match up with those connected to the Zodiac, but as with Allen and Van Best, there is no conclusive proof. So there's no proof in any of these three people that they assume that he was connected. All they have is a sketch that may or may not be true. They don't really have anything, honestly. I mean, nothing at all, which is kind of like after a while, enough time. They don't.
From 1969 to 2000.
It's hard. It's hard because it's not like he killed in a house or building or he like strangled somebody or it just there's no way you could like really. Nowadays he would have been caught, but I think there's a couple photos of him online that you can see. There's one when he was a little bit younger with glasses. Let's see. So I have an update. If you don't have any questions, Matt.
No.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty good on everything over there.
Okay, there's a case update, okay? So in 2020, more than 50 years, that answers a question. 50 years after the cipher was sent, an amateur code breaker solved the Zodiac cipher. And the decoded message read, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show." Okay, so let me stop there. They tried to get him on the radio on a TV show to talk, and it wasn't him doing it, and it was a prank.
Yeah, that was a person that was... Like, if I remember correctly, they pinpointed the call to an insane asylum.
Yeah, it wasn't him.
And the person, definitely wasn't him because they also gave him a time and a place to meet up at.
And he didn't show up.
Exactly.
Didn't show up.
And that's when they looked into it a little further and found that the phone call traced back to the insane asylum. And they're like, definitely that's not the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Could that have been the Earl Van Best guy in the insane asylum?
Wow,
I don't know. It says, "I hope you are having lots of fun and trying to catch me. That wasn't me on TV," which brings up a point about me. "I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner because I know I now have enough slaves to work for me where everyone else has nothing. when they reach paradise, spelled wrong, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one
in paradise
death. Yeah.
There's no for not really very good grammar.
Not
anyway,
at all.
So.
Not at all. But they were deciphering, so it could have said something else.
Possibly.
That they were just trying to decipher. So in October 2021, a team of 40 former law enforcement investigators called the Case Breakers claimed to have identified the Zodiac Killer. However, the FBI states that the case is still open and this is not the definitive guy.
No.
Wow.
His name is Gary F. Posty. I can also zoom that in for you.
He looked kind of like a young Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, he actually did. But look, people are saying, look at this.
Yeah, that's the crevices.
Those are scars.
Yeah.
Those are scars in his forehead, I found out. Also, I have another picture of him younger that people said that he looks very familiar to this picture with the head, part, because other people didn't have the creases. But those aren't creases, those are scars on this guy. There is other evidence too, but I didn't do much research on this guy because from what I heard, it was very circumstantial evidence they had on this guy. They couldn't really say this is the guy because it's like, yeah, he had, scars on his head, but it doesn't make him, the guy. He wasn't okay in the head from what I remember researching. So yeah, and that's where the Zodiac case is up to today. I mean, we've taken 2 pretty big steps in the last 2 years to try to break it, but I'm not even sure that will do anything. This was all over social media that they solved the Zodiac. Zodiac was solved. I was like, okay, all right. Wouldn't it be on front page papers, if it actually was?
Yeah, that was a guarantee. If they were able to guarantee it and at least have some DNA evidence, because even with the first guy that they suspected, sure, there was a lot of weird correlations between the Zodiac and that main person.
Yeah.
But they're the same typewriter. They had some.
It was a handwriting, so
history too.
The other guy actually got handwritten. The dad actually got the handwritten. They said that his handwriting matches up with the Zodiac's handwriting, and they're like,
yeah.
But then again, they said circumstantial. Everything is circumstantial unless you have DNA. To be honest.
Yeah, big time.
Unless you have witnesses or DNA, circumstantial. You're just guessing. You know?
Big time. After the first guy died, they even tested the person that he was living with because I think he was
in codes. Yeah.
Well, he was homosexual, so he had a boyfriend, things like that, or maybe a spouse, and so they tested both of them, and none of the DNA evidence correlated to any of the Zodiac stuff.
I don't think the first guy is my personal opinion. I don't think the first guy is. I think I want to say Earl Van Ness is my number one, but they still are no, we're not going to say it because where's the proof? We don't. The guy's dead. We don't have proof of anything. He was a bad guy, but that doesn't make him the Zodiac Killer. You know. So I would suggest, to wrap this up, going to watch The Most Dangerous Animal of Them All. I'm almost positive if you want to quote me on it, if it's on Netflix or Hulu. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Let me give it a quick check.
But it's definitely worth the watch. It explains a lot about the book. It explains a lot about the it's actually from you interview the guy who wrote the book, the son. You interview the mom, the girl who was married to him, and then eventually got divorced from him. They interviewed, they talked about the guy, how the mom met him, and she was he groomed her. It was very weird. He stole her from her parents and they ran away. He was 25 or something like that, and she was 15.
Jeez.
And they ran away, and they eventually got married because she got pregnant, and it was. And then the dad took the kid and put him up for adoption because he didn't want to hear her screaming anymore, and it was just not. It was not.
Wow, that's
a good
crazy.
Place. It was interesting, and the composite sketch, you can even tell the lower lip is closer to the same. The nose the glasses, man. But those glasses were popular back then, so I can't.
Time.
I can't really
that's
say
the thing
that.
that gets me with the last guy is like the most recent suspect is that sure he may have the scarring on his forehead and everything, but it's like I don't know. Could he have possibly worn glasses? Just
he did in some pictures. He did.
Oh,
I don't know if I.
Yeah, because even in that picture, I couldn't find a picture with the most recent guy with glasses.
This is the guy they thought it was, but I didn't read into it much because I saw circumstantial and I was like, I'm gone, because that just means that it's never going to be taken seriously. As soon as they say circumstantial, you have DNA. Are we going to get DNA off of this dude? That's probably not alive.
They could always.
He also was wanted for murder. He murdered somebody else too.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they said he murdered a girl in her house or something like that.
That's crazy.
And then he was obviously wanted for murder by the San Francisco Police Department. So they thought it might have been this guy. So 1963, he was wanted for. That's a picture of 1963, and the sketch is 1969. So a couple years after that, but.
Are you guys ready for a curveball?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Is ready for a curveball? What do you guys think about this guy?
Fit.
Do you think
his face look like that?
Do you think he looks like the killer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is that?
So there is a YouTube channel, right? This guy has, guess how many subscribers?
A lot.
5 million.
He has 7 subscribers.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's the one that did the whole case where this person that he's guessing he believes is the Zodiac Killer. Wow, that's interesting.
So this guy with 7 subscribers, on every single video of the Zodiac Killer on YouTube, he goes, "You are wrong. It's this guy."
Wow. Is there any evidence on that guy? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so I have one of his videos. You guys want to watch?
Sure.
Which one? He's got, let's see. He's got Halloween card symbol explained, the Zodiac identity clue, the Scotch tape killer, his identity is Joseph Paul Franklin, is the Zodiac Killer still alive, Zodiac Killer named decrypted. They're all about the same thing.
Wow. Oh, so his channel is pretty much all the Zodiac Killer. Wow, that's pretty crazy. I was always fascinated in the
I would need
Halloween
to see
card.
a picture of him around that age. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it would have to be...
Oh.
Right, thank you for watching another video. And in this video, I wanted to cover who I believe the Zodiac Killer is. Who it's Joseph Paul Franklin. And in this video, I wanted to cover if Joseph...
The one on the left is named Young.
Would be his, basically, his name fits into the name ciphers. So...
so does 3 other people's.
So he was also...
Why'd you change your middle name?
Zodiac was also...
Just want to change my middle name.
Some of his letters on certain dates.
Because those are all the other ones.
Yeah.
All the other murders.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm not listening to all those. It's too many.
And this letter was mailed on April 20th, which is Hitler's birthday.
Whoa.
That's a fun fact right there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, 420 is
This
Hitler's
symbol
birthday.
right here. It corresponds with some neo-Nazi and white supremacist organizations. So I believe that he believed very strongly that he was like gonna start.
They shot white
race
people.
war. So
They shot white people.
could he have feasibly been there at that time? He would have been about 16 years old at the time of the Sherry Joe Bates murder.
Oh.
And I gotta admit, that man is a very young age.
Jeffrey Dahmer started young too.
I have listened to the audiobook of his life story, and I don't believe that there's any accountability for where he was at age 16. It just says that he
But it said he
was
hated black people and Jews, it says.
Yeah.
But all those people that were killed were white. And he didn't disguise himself to look like he was somebody, you know what I mean?
But even neo-Nazis don't really like anybody that don't.
For me, you could reach. For me, I don't think we're ever gonna catch him. I hope we do. I think it's 50 years is way too far to like catch somebody, especially nowadays. If they were like 23 when they did it, and it's 50 years later, you have like what? You have like 10, 20 years to catch the guy before he doesn't, before they get so old that they pass away.
So just to quickly summarize what the rest of this video is, because I watched it before. Basically, what he says is that he would be 16. And his location would line up to where the Zodiac Killer actually was. And then the other thing is that this guy was very much into like the Nazi stuff and that side of things. And then he would be in jail during the time that the supposed Zodiac Killer stopped. So that would be why he no longer sent letters or XYZ to that aspect. But then this man was killed, lethal injection, November 20th, 2013.
Good. Doesn't sound like a good guy. So maybe we did get justice.
I just like the thought of like a channel with 7 subscribers being the guy who's like, I got it.
I also was thinking during this whole time, I know I should be thinking about the case, but I was thinking, why does everybody go by their first, middle, and last name? Like back then it was like Joseph Paul Franklin. Like all the victims were blank, blank, blank. I was like, for me, it's like you should maybe be seen with like maybe your first and last name. Yeah. Sorry. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, if my name was up there, it would be so big that, oh my God, I would need like a 25-character cipher.
Yeah.
If you guys are interested in more of what this guy's saying too, I'll send you his channel. I'll put it in the description as well.
That's cool.
Because it's neat and unique. Even if some guy has like 7 subscribers, you had a bunch of people during 2020, during COVID, just like, hey, you know what? Let's break that site.
Like after 50-something years, you're like, what were you doing this whole time? Like, you should have came out of the womb. Okay, finding this cipher. He was an amateur sleuth. Why were all these professionals having a hard time deciphering the cipher? Especially if they deciphered several other ciphers.
Yeah.
They should have had a general layout of like A, B, C, D,
Maybe you change up the cipher or whatever. And plus, I feel like if it was later on and everything, a lot of people tend to lose interest in things anyways. Which I do agree, though. If you're a professional at, one murder or whatever, or like multiple different murders of one person, you're like, all right, I should know this. You think they would have deciphered it a lot quicker, but I don't know. I feel like if this guy, the Zodiac Killer, was smart enough, he would change his stuff up. Yeah. Just like with the murders. The murders, sure, the first couple were gunshots, then the next one was stabbing. Now, the other one was also a gunshot, unfortunately. The last one.
I just think, personally, in my opinion, I don't think the Zodiac is still alive. Regardless. I don't think he's still alive. I don't think the police had a clue what they were doing.
So, Rachel, any closing thoughts?
I think this guy was a bad guy. I don't condone what he did. I'm sorry for all the victims' families. We don't want to drag out anybody's family through it again. I hope one day we will find out who he is, but I also hope he already is gone from this world. We don't need any more people like that. That's it for me.
Dang. In respect to all of these people, even though we've only discussed 2 so far, never go out alone. Or if you do, let everybody know where you're going.
Yeah.
Don't sneak around. Don't, be smart about it. If you're going to go to someplace and make out with somebody, just let a friend know. Let somebody that you trust know or whatever.
Leave your number with your parents. Leave their number and where they live with your parents.
Getting in contact with somebody is very easy nowadays. This could be avoided. Just be smart about it. Be smart about where you're going and everything. And, even though you feel you may be invincible or whatever.
You're not.
Exactly.
That's a promise.
Because that's a lot of these people. They never suspected anything to go wrong during even just like someplace secluded, anything can go wrong. So please be smart about whatever you do.
Do smart things.
Do smart things. Be in contact with people. Don't leave anybody out in the know or anything like that.
Don't be sneaky. Give numbers to other people. You don't want to end up like these people.
Or if you're going out with somebody, just have like a checkup kind of thing, especially if you don't know the person or any kind of dating site. So that way you're safe. We're all safe. Everybody's taken care of.
And you can listen to our podcast.
You got it. And with that said, this is another episode of Murder We Spoke.
Mm-hmm. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt. And that's it. That was the Zodiac Killer.
That's it.
Don't let him meet you in a dark alley or lover's lane. Peace out, everyone. Bye. Queen.